So this is supposed to be the pixel of all pixels, arguably the one that we've been waiting for. So let's talk about that. I think it comes down to a few main things with this phone. The first being a brand new camera sensor, almost 1 inch in size. A renewed lease on performance with a new in-house chip, Tensor, and also a brand new design altogether, both hardware and software with Material U. There's a whole lot of cards on the table here. So let's start with, what the hell is up with that design? Size. It comes down to size. It's a big phone, a very big phone. And largely, I'm someone that gravitates towards smaller devices now over larger phones, and this is rather unwieldy. It's a large device. As you can see, I have dropped this device largely because of said unwieldy size, and it didn't wear as well as I would have hoped. But that leads me to fit and finish. A lot of the lack of seamlessness, the inorganic brash edges, it doesn't feel like a Google phone. It certainly doesn't feel like a $900 flagship either. Something about the lack of color on the mushy buttons on the side mixed with just the shiny rails make this phone feel like an older Samsung phone, maybe a Galaxy S6, and not like a 2021 Material Pixel. Google has identity to its feel. This feels directionless. Now on the bright side, while I don't really love the materials, I do love Material U. Material U really offers the freshness to the phone. It's the thing that largely makes me keep coming back to use this device. It feels new, it feels fun, and it offers something unique to an otherwise stale software space. But let's move on to what displays Material U. The display. Now this screen is very pretty, and it's very smooth with 120 Hertz. But it does come with a few setbacks. Besides a really annoying auto dim and curved edges, which make accidental touches inevitable, this screen is just so damn saturated, which makes editing photos really hard. For reference, these are photos that I took and edited on my Pixel, posted to Twitter, and they look completely different on another pretty well-balanced panel like an iPhone or a MacBook. The thing is, you can't trust the saturation or contrast when using an editing app on Pixel because they look so completely different on a more diverse set of panels. But hey, other than that, it looks good for average tasks. Social media, watching videos, it looks good. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. This is leather. This is leather. This is leather. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, So this is leather. Red leather. Yeah, this. But that brings us to performance. Tensor. Tensor is all the hype. Just like Apple with their A-series chips in their iPhones, designed specifically for their devices, that's what Google's doing now with Tensor. Now I see this as really exciting because in the past I've had issues when it comes to slowdowns about 5 months in. Obviously I can't really test that yet, but in this past, say, month, it's been really snappy. It's been really responsive. It's a very quick phone. Now I hope it stays at that, but we'll see. Time will tell. Unfortunately, when it comes to Tensor, I can't say the best things about battery life. I find battery to be wildly inconsistent, and also standby time is really bad. Like, I'll leave this phone on my nightstand, not on a charger, and it'll lose at least 10-20% overnight without doing a single thing. But overall, day to day, I can barely make it a day, just barely. And that's not great for a big phone. Now finally, we've made it to the camera. This is probably one of the most important things for me, at least. So what's that looking like? Now, as I mentioned before, this is nearly a 1-inch sensor. So why is that a good thing? Well, for one, natural depth of field, the separation blurriness between your subject and the background. Largely, portrait mode was the answer for smaller sensor sizes back when that was largely the thing, but now I actually even question if we need portrait mode anymore because it's just so damn good right out of camera. But, and this is the big but, I'm not entirely in love with this camera. I find 9 times out of 10 it just looks so over-processed and fake looking with that blanketed processing in the JPEG form, not the RAW. But I find it doesn't take advantage of the inherent beautiful properties of a larger sensor. I guess I kind of view it as like a nice steak versus a cheaper diner steak. You can get a $7 or $8 diner steak and compare it to a $80 or $90 beautiful cut of meat. But if you lather both with a lot of steak sauce or fucking Verde or something, what's the point of having a more expensive steak at that point? They just taste the same. Now with this, I plan to make a bigger video in the sense of just cameras in general in smartphones. But until then, David Imel actually is making a video right now on this exact subject. It's wonderful and wild, and you should definitely check it out when it's coming out in the next coming weeks. So yeah, I'll leave that down below. Now I will add one of the bigger differences in between the 6 Pro and the regular 6 is the 4X camera. Now I'm not in love with the 4X camera, actually the opposite. I find it to be very crunchy, very noisy, and it misses focus constantly. I find myself using the 2X way more, which is actually a super res zoom as opposed to the optical 4X. But I find myself never using this 4X lens just because it's not good. Let's put it this way, if you're actually questioning spending the extra $300 just for this 4X lens, it's not worth it. But outside of the 4X, you still get a really quality ultrawide. It's not as good as iPhones, in my opinion. It's still a bit soft and a bit noisy. But other than that, the main sensor, even at the 2X crop, it just looks so good with that natural depth of field. The sensor's actually larger than iPhone, so you get even more natural depth of field. It looks great. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention the fact that with a bigger sensor, you're gonna get some inherent issues. One being the fact that focusing can be a struggle sometimes. I find myself especially struggling in moving objects like a car or even just walking. I miss focus constantly. But I know it sounds like I'm being super critical here, but like the one saving grace and the big important thing here is every once in a while when you do get that photo that is in focus and you play with the lights in an editing app like Lightroom, it really produces a photo that makes you want to smile. So here's my conclusion. This phone feels rushed, and there's a lot going for it, but it fails for me in the light of being a flagship $900 phone. Listen, I look forward to where Google is headed with this renewed approach to the Pixel line. But as for the Pixel 6 Pro, I was waiting for the Pixel, but instead I'm left with just another Android phone.